goodness.
And the Greek basketball god raining down on the Pistons.
My. Did you see where he took off? Oh, my goodness.
Big Freak and the Milwaukee Bucks with a statement in the first playoff game of 2019 for this #1 seed in the playoffs. Man, the big victory, 121-86. I'm Chris Miles, Derek Fisher, Caron Butler, Jason Terry here. I mean, seriously, from the free throw line in a game.
Racing.
That's disrespectful, man. My mom's at the game. She's loving it. It's crazy.
Yeah, so you see Giannis coming your way in transition, and you're thinking, what? Okay, you can't stay in front of him, right?
No, in transition, you have no chance one-on-one, that's for sure. And then in transition, one-on-one for sure, no shot. Tonight, to me, against the Pistons, what you saw a lot of times was as Giannis was coming down one-on-one on his defender, he saw gaps in the defense versus the Pistons. So take a little step this way, Chris.
Yep.
He saw space in between these defenders. So if Caron is guarding Giannis and he sees this gaps, he's picking this ball up, he's getting to the front of the rim before a defense can get there. So to me, adjustments maybe in game 2 for the Pistons would be anytime you have a great transition offensive player, Tony Parker, LeBron James, Russ Westbrook, you have to build what we call the wall. You guys remember that, fella. So Caron is guarding the basketball, but as we get into this painted area, there's literally a wall between the paint, the basketball, and the offensive player. And then in the postseason, you have to be willing to make the effort to build the wall. And then if the ball is kicked out to a shooter or a perimeter player, making the second and multiple efforts to close back out.
Well, you say that in the sense of in the first half, Giannis had 14 points, and Brook Lopez also had 14 points. So when Giannis is driving like that, how valuable is a guy like Brook Lopez?
Well, that's where the value with adding Lopez to their roster came from this year. A stretch 5. We've seen a lot of stretch 4s. But he's one of the best stretch 5s now in the league, spacing the floor, providing opportunities. And if you do help off Brook Lopez, he's shooting it from just over half court and shooting good percentages.
Dominance is the word to describe the Bucks in that first half. Because for the entire game, I mean, look, Milwaukee was great, but Brook Lopez setting the tone with the outside shot. Yet, I mean, he's just a perfect fit for a guy like Giannis.
Perfect fit, and obviously what Giannis needs is multiple shooters around him on the perimeter to give him that space so they can't build that wall. The other asset to his game is he's a rim protector. Doesn't look like it, but he's a big 7'2" guy, and when they come to the rim, he contests every shot.
Okay, so again, when we think about Giannis in transition, okay, he's dangerous. But in a half-court set, you say, give him the outside shot. Why doesn't that work?
Well, again, you know, I was never as great as Giannis, so I can't imagine being guarded the way he is. But for a guy that's a non-shooter, typically we say, okay, space him and give him a little bit of room because you're not worried about the three-point shot. So he gaps him just like Caron said. The problem with that in some instances is now, without defensive pressure to my body or to the ball, I get a running start at Caron. And whichever way I'm going, left or right, if I'm going downhill, any contact to me is a foul, especially in the league these days. But again, now you start setting up these situations where the wall is not built because he's able to build up that speed. So in theory, to me, I would consider putting a smaller guy on Giannis a little bit in game 2. I don't think the Pistons have a chance to win this series. However, in terms of adjusting, maybe a smaller guy that can pick him up full court, close the space, get into his handle a little bit, because once he starts going downhill, as you saw coming on, 1 foot from the free throw line, and he's dunking it.
Well, when you say that, then I think of another problem that occurs with a guy like Giannis because the height differential. So if you put a guy, let's say your height, a good defensive guard, on Giannis, who's almost 7 feet tall, then you take him to the post, right?
I would think so. This guy knows a lot about that. I'll turn the basketball over to him. I was never double teamed.
So we imagine in this situation a guard like you.
Yep.
Giannis would be about what, 4 inches taller than you, and look at this advantage already.
Yeah, so you're already looking at this situation, and Giannis is here, and he has a Reggie Jackson or an Ish or someone like that, what the guard position, trying to get into him and crowd him as much as possible. If he's in a bad way, you taught to come on the second or third dribble. because that's in a bad way. Giannis is extremely aggressive. Now here comes the help. Jet is going to come. Now who does that leave open? It's a cutter, skinny fat. You can cut through, and then you have somebody on the weak side able to knock down the perimeter shots. He's able to skip it across. You got Brook Lopez, Chris Middleton, who's an all-star, guys like that, able to knock down shots, not just take shots.
So who's the best person to guard him on any given team? Right?
Well,
because we said the misadvantage of having a small guy inside. So let's say the Pistons don't have the personnel. What team do you see? Jet, will let you go in on this one. What team in the East do you see having better matchups defensively with Milwaukee?
Well, regardless what team it is, you need multiple coverages and multiple looks and multiple defenders that can defend Giannis, right? If he's in the post, you can come, like Caron said, on the dribble. Or you can force him baseline, and you can double team him from there.
Here's Coach Budenholzer at the podium right now following the Bucks' big Game 1 victory.
Stands out. It's not easy when you don't get to play maybe the last couple games or the last game, and you got a lot of time in between games. So I think the guys had a lot of built up, just readiness, I guess, whatever word you want to use. But good win for us. Now we just got to be humble in victory, get ready for the second game, take the same focus into game 2.
Just how impressed were you by the team's focus and the way that they were able to set the tone quickly and sustain, not just early, but throughout the game?
Yeah, no, I mean, it obviously stands out. I think to sustain it for basically, the entire game, have very few, if any, let-ups. It speaks to kind of, I think, the hunger of the group, the character of the group.
Obviously, Giannis is at the forefront of that. Just what I mean for him to have, another big game and just kind of prove it in the playoffs and, just kind of take that next step.
I mean, it's what we've been seeing from Giannis all year. So, I think he's prepared himself. He's ready, and he expects a lot of himself, and he delivers a lot of times.
Nico didn't shoot well from deep, but he played 15 minutes. What did you see in his return after missing 11 games?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, that you mentioned, he got 15 minutes. I think obviously probably didn't have it mapped out for him to get quite that many, but I think his conditioning's in a pretty decent place because he's been able to do a lot with his lower body. And I think just for him to knock off the rust, for him to, see a couple baskets go in, keep shooting it, he's going to be a big part of what we do going forward.
Seems like Giannis clunked his head pretty good on that early foul from Thon. Do you expect him to undergo any further testing on his head after that?
No, not that I'm aware of.
I think we've spoke a lot about the balance of the offense through the year, and there was certainly a stage today. I think you're up by 25 points or something in the second quarter, and Chris and Bledsoe had only had 5 shots between them. In terms of the offense today, what did you like about it, and do you see even more room for improvement when you look at those two guys?
Well, we've talked all year about just taking what the defense gives you, and every night it can be somebody different. Every half it can be somebody different. I think it's a huge positive for us that, we can score at the rate we're scoring, and, Chris may have a quiet half or Bled may have a quiet half, and there's always areas to improve. We can get better offensively, but, I love it when I see a box score, when lots of guys are participating, lots of guys are, having good games, and we're not totally dependent on just, those top 3 guys, top 4, top 5 guys. So we're getting it from a lot of different places.
But what's your view of the Drummond foul on Giannis that got him ejected?
I actually didn't see any of the replays. It seemed pretty obvious in the heat of the moment that it was a flagrant one, and he gave him a good push. It's part of the playoffs. It didn't seem like anything. Besides, it's obviously a flagrant, but it's part of the game.
Coach, another nice contribution from George Hill off the bench. How nice is it to know that you can just trot him out there and you always know you're going to get a positive performance from him?
Yeah, I think his aggressiveness offensively has become more consistent, more steady. He's such a great teammate. Sometimes he defers. He wants other people to do things, but he and I have had a couple good conversations. He's at his best. Whatever team he plays on is at their best when he's aggressive. And, I think he's feeling that and sensing that and taking advantage of his opportunities. And I thought he was a big part of that first half, a big part of us sustaining our kind of pressure on both ends of the court. It's great when you can come off the bench with a guy like George Hill.
Coach, seeing 3 road teams lose yesterday, and even the Celtics were down at halftime today, is that something you look at all, and is that anything you communicate to the team just to work on that focus that it is the playoffs and everybody plays at a higher intensity level?
We didn't talk about it, but I mean, we all have phones and TVs and all the other devices, so I'm sure the players saw it. I'm sure the coaches, I saw it. It's something that you take notice of, and it's just a reminder that, the regular season's done, seedings and home court at the end of the day can be meaningless. And so you have to bring the focus that our guys brought, whether they watched it or they even know or had an impact. I have no idea.
But with all due respect to the other Pistons, when Blake Griffin is available and on his game, what changes for them?
Well, he's such a focal point of their offense. He does so many things for them with the ball. He's a very unique big, and that he can be the ball handler in pick and rolls. They can have big guys coming and setting screens for him in pick and rolls. They have small guys coming and setting screens for him in pick and roll. Then he can just play one-on-one from the post. He's a significantly improved three-point shooter, so he's got a great pump fake and go game from the three-point line. He's Blake Griffin. He's a dynamic offensive player, scorer, athlete. He's good, so he makes a big difference.
You mentioned earlier just the need to stay humble over these next couple of games and get ready for Game 2. How do you foster that humility and kind of instill that over the next couple of days?
Well, we'll look at the film. I always believe film sessions are the best place. It's where you can see where you need to improve and get better, see areas where they got some things done today, and can we get better, and know that Blake Griffin may or may not play. It doesn't matter. We have to have the respect. We have to have the humility over the next couple of days and going into Game 2.
I know the defense is always what you're concerned about. Just what do you think of Brook at the rim tonight? It seemed like he really gave Drummond a tough time.
Yeah, no, I thought his activity was good, his reads and, kind of making decisions. And whether it's, contesting a guard, shooting the floaters and as they get closer and closer to the basket, or the dump offs to Drummond and then going back and contesting him. Brooks just got a really good natural knack and feel for that. And, I thought he was very good.
Pistons made a defensive adjustment and put Drummond on Giannis for a little bit there. Did you see that was effective with Drummond's mobility and the strength being able to stay with him?
Like you said, I think it was a fairly short stretch, and a lot of teams have put their fives on Giannis during the year. So whether it's Drummond or Gobert or different guys, he's seen it. I think he's got a great plan of attack. We'll continue to just take what the defense gives us, and Giannis will do the same thing wherever those opportunities are, whether it's a 5 or a 4 or a small guarding him. Great. Thank you, guys.
All right, the Bucks and the Pistons, Game 1, time to fear the deer. Blake Griffin sitting this one out. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, the championship trophy from 1971. I would say, fellas, this team inspired.
The trophy was heavy the way Kareem holding it. Jeez.
Well, Giannis doing the heavy lifting for the Bucks early and often, running the floor, looking good in transition.
Yeah, in transition, Giannis is too much to handle, outrunning the wing, and then you see the big Wookiee down to 3.
Brook Lopez, 14 points in the first half. Giannis, business decision by Thon Maker there. Former teammate knew what was happening, JT.
He knew what time it was. Plenty of individual workouts together.
Meanwhile, that former Buck, Thon Maker, part of an ice-cold first half for Detroit. 3 for 14 from three-point range in the first half. Then on the other end, Chris Middleton, spot up, bang, bang.
Cash money, Middleton.
Same thing can be said about Giannis finding Eric Bledsoe. Good pass there.
Yeah, and that's the difficulty with providing extra bodies over to Giannis. Bucks surrounding them with shooters and guys that can make shots.
How about some defense? leading to some offense. That's been the Bucks' calling card all season.
Oh, and that's tough sled.
Speaking of tough sledding, what?
To the roof, Batman. From the free throw line.
Who dunks from the free throw line in a playoff game?
Giannis.
That's the answer to this question going forward. And you can see that score just elevating and the tensions elevating as well. Giannis getting one of his 17 rebounds. Andre Drummond, flagrant and ejected from the game. Right call?
It was the right call, but look, don't go help him. Don't go help him up. Stay in your ground. Because this is how it's going to be looking going forward every game.
I would have liked to see him take that foul in the first quarter to set a tone.
If you see there were 54 points for the Detroit Pistons in that first half. Remember, the Bucks had 70 points in the first half. So Detroit didn't even get to that mark until 6 minutes left in the game. Milwaukee with a huge blowout win, 121-86. Pistons have now lost 11 straight playoff games. Here's their head coach, Dwayne Casey.
Everybody in a hurry? Any questions?
I mean, I guess I'll start. Obviously, it doesn't go the way you wanted tonight, but just what do you think you guys did well against?
Well, again, they're a great team. We didn't meet the level of physicality, and then we tried. We, got some cheap fouls, but we got the speed of the game we've got to get up to. Again, they're a great team. They're averaging, 117. We were all over the map defensively, didn't get anything done. But we got another level we have to get to with our intensity, physicality, because they're coming through there with violence. I mean, Euro stepping, throwing elbows and stuff like that. So we got to make sure we get our level of competitiveness up to start the game, because you can't spot a great team like this that many points and expect to get back into it.
How do you spoke about defensively, you had some issues there, particularly to start the game. How do you go about weathering that
Well, we got to
storm?
get back. Yeah, that's where it started. Our transition defense was suspect. It's not a regular season game, and that's, again, a sign of a team that hasn't been there enough. And, that's on me. I've got to make sure I prepare them for, and it's hard to do when you talk about it until you go through the night to see how fast, how hard, how intense a playoff game is. And I thought we picked it up after that, which is a positive.
Dwayne, from my outsider's perspective, it seems like it's easy to see that you guys feed off of Blake and you feed off of Andre. So when Blake is out and Andre gets ejected, who do you look towards? What do you do?
Again, we still have Reggie Jackson still there. Again, you don't replace. It'll be like them not having Antetokounmpo. Or back in the day when LeBron was in Cleveland not playing. So it's a big blow. But yet and still, that doesn't affect our intensity, our level of fight to start the game. I mean, we picked it up as the game went on, but, again, it was too late. You dig yourself such a big hole. So we've got to come out of the locker room not in a festive smiling, hey, no, it's a battle. It's a battle. They got their level up a lot quicker than we did, on the jump ball. So we got to understand that, know that, understand what we're trying to do offensively, defensively, understand what we're doing. And my bads, you can't have a lot of those, especially to start the game.
Dwayne, a couple of days ago you said that you like this experience because you could see, maybe gauge certain things about guys you can't in the regular season. From Luke in particular in the first half, what'd you see?
I thought Luke came out. He was one guy that had his offensive game going, but again, it's two sides. Everybody has got to come back down and guard on the other end, but I like the way Luke was being aggressive offensively. And again, it's a great experience for him to see how hard it is to score in the playoff setting. And how intense you have to be when you do go back down to the other end. But I was really happy to see Luke, and he's been playing that way for the last couple of weeks.
Coach, on the flagrant two, your comment about that, did you think it was a flagrant
I didn't
two?
think it was a flagrant. They were trying to get the game under control. I've seen a lot harder fouls in a playoff setting than that. but I understood what they were doing. But what I didn't understand was official coming over, having a conversation with a player that's not even playing and giving them a technical. So I've got to get an explanation for that. You know, you start a conversation, you have a conversation, and all at once you let it get heated instead of walking away. And, you know, again, it's a hot situation. Walk to the other side of the floor instead of trying to have a conversation. So I understood what they were trying to do, and you know, I got to look at it and see if it was warranted. But I've seen a lot from a layman's eye. I've seen a lot harder flagrant fouls.
Do you think more like a flagrant one, or what?
It should have been. But again, I understood what they were trying to do. Thank you.
So what do you call Giannis, Caron?
Shark.
Why?
He's a killer.
Smells that blood in the water and takes advantage. We're going to hear from the MVP candidate next.